Hey, Josh. Just wanted to ask, I guess thinking back to earlier this year when they picked squads for New Zealand and South Africa tours, and obviously you weren't in either, and they picked, maybe 35 players all up. How do you kind of reflect on the last, I guess, 12 months or so, and can you kind of believe, how far you've come in the selectors standing at least?
Um, yeah, so last season was obviously a standout season for myself, and it's probably the first really good season I've had. So to answer your question about not being picked in the squads before, that's probably the reasoning behind it. It was probably the first consistent season I've had. So yeah, so being involved in these squads is probably just off the back of that, and yeah, it's quite crazy to think that how far I've come in a short space of time. But yeah, it's really exciting for myself, and as I said before, like I'm feeling really confident about my game at the moment. So given the opportunity, I feel like I do a good job.
What did you kind of put your red ball improvements in your batting, Josh, down to, mate?
I just really narrowed down my focus and my routines, and yeah, that held me in really good stead. Going into the Shield Hub last season. Did a lot of work with the psych and our batting coach Bo Casson on that sort of thing. I really wanted to just to face more balls and really prolong my innings, and just by narrowing my focus, I was able to do that and scored a few hundreds. So that was really pleasing.
Just a final one, if I may. How would your parents and wider family feel if you were to debut against your country of birth, mate, and obviously their country of birth?
Yeah, it would obviously be very very interesting. It doesn't happen very often, but no, they'd obviously be really proud and happy for me if it were to happen. Yeah, it's incredibly exciting. There might be a bit of banter thrown over the dinner table, but other than that, yeah, I'm sure they'd be happy for me.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Mel Farrell.
Thanks, Cole. Hey, Josh. Just sort of along those lines, I was just wondering what your first memories of watching an Ashes series were, where you are, what you were doing.
I can't remember how old I was. I remember getting up. It might have been I think it was the 2001 Ashes in Australia. I remember getting up early in the morning to watch with my dad. I remember watching JL. It might have been the first game at the Gabba when watching JL and Haydos batting, and I think Haydos got a big 100. So I remember that quite vividly, and then ever since, yeah, Ashes series are huge, and it's probably the pinnacle of the sport. And every series is so big, and there's huge moments that come along with those. So yeah, incredibly exciting.
Did you always support Australia, or was there always a little bit of a bet each way?
Sorry, did I always support Australia?
Did you always support Australia, or was there kind of a bit of a bet each way with your family in as far as England and Australia went with your background?
No, I as a kid, I obviously, growing up in England, I supported England, but obviously that's all changed now, moving to Australia. So yeah.
And do you get any stick from your own teammates about the accent?
A little bit. I sort of lost it last year, and then I went back to the UK for the summer, and I think I picked up the twang again. So no, a few of the boys were joking around at the World Cup that I was singing the English national anthem, which definitely wasn't the case, but it was yeah, pretty funny.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Dan Brady.
G'day, Josh. Wanted to ask, first of all, how are you kind of sort of just, obviously everyone in who's been in the UAE, whether they play games or not, it's been a long time since they faced a red ball in a match. How you kind of work, I mean, I know you said you've done a lot of work with Bo Casson with the psych about your process. Is that going to be helpful potentially going into a test match without having played a lot of red ball cricket?
Yeah, it is. And that's probably the beauty of it. I can replicate what I'm doing in training and in games. It's not something that just comes out during a game, a Shield game or an A game or whatever. Like it's I'm trying to use that in every time I pick up a bat to help myself. Yeah. So obviously I haven't played much cricket, but I played the Shield game before I came out here. Faced plenty of Red Bulls, so yeah, I'm ready to go.
And just in terms of I suppose you talk about that work, like, is that a bit about like mental routine, say between balls, and like, how you preserve your concentration over time?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's before the ball's bowled, facing the delivery, and then after the ball's bowled. It's everything, and it's doing it at training as well, to make sure I'm replicating it as much as possible.
And just lastly from me, do you guys, like, obviously the weather forecast in Queensland this week's not that great. Like, do you know much about sort of what's happening in terms of the preparatory game that you were meant to be playing this week? Is it going to be moved given the weather forecast? What's the go there?
Yeah, I'm not too sure at this stage. I think it's pretty unlikely that it will go ahead. Just with the weather that we've had this week and the weather that's coming up. So, I'm not too sure at this stage.
Thanks, Josh.
Scott Bailey.
Hey, Josh, just with the sports like stuff, was it only 2 summers ago or start of last summer that you started using one, or have you used one previously? And how did you sort of come to be, I guess, using one?
No, they've probably been around since I was contracted maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I just got to the stage of just before last season started. I was playing well, but I was getting a lot of 50s and starts and not going on, and it was something that I really wanted to work on in my game, and it sort of plays on your mind a bit. I probably went 20 or 25 Shield games without making 100, and that was something that I really wanted to improve my game on. So I went to Matt Bergen, our psych, who's now with CA, and I spoke in depth about that, and it was brilliant. It changed my game and allowed me to build a couple of big innings last year.
Good one. And mate, just out of interest, are they giving you any timeline on when you'll find things out? I know talking to George Bailey a couple of weeks ago, he sort of had in mind that they'd like to know the first test team before this intra-squad match starts, but obviously things have changed a bit since then. Do you have any idea when you'll find out?
I don't know. I think it'll most likely be the next couple of days, I'd say. Yeah.
Gotcha. And last one from me, mate. Mel was sort of asking about obviously growing up supporting England. At what point is it when you enter the Australian, like the state system, and you're playing for WA, that you start supporting Australia in the Ashes? Because I can't imagine you land in Australia, then in the would have been probably the 2010-11 Ashes, you all of a sudden start supporting Australia. I imagine you're still cheering on England that summer.
Yeah, I think so. I think once you start once you start building your way up into professional cricket, it's quite tough to be trying to play for a country and not supporting them. So yeah, that changed pretty quickly.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Andrew Menzel.
G'day, Josh. Ponting, Gilchrist, Warren, they've all sort of backed you publicly in the media. How does it sort of feel when you read those sort of comments?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice to hear from those blokes who are obviously greats for the game. It's tough. You don't want to read too much into it, because at the end of the day, they're not the guys making the decisions. But for them to say some really nice things about me, it's nice to hear.
And just quickly, is there anything you gleaned off Shane Warne when you were working with him in the 100? Anything he sort of passed on to you?
Not really. Obviously, he was working heavily with the spinners, and he was a brilliant head coach. He's got tactically, he's excellent. He's got so much knowledge. So nothing really tactically or technically with me, with my batting, but just sort of game sense stuff. He was excellent, and he passed on quite a few things about what the bowler's thinking, and what he's sort of looking to do with their field set and that sort of thing. So he was good in that sense.
Thanks, mate. Good luck.
Thank you.
Russell Gould.
Thanks, Cole. G'day, Josh. Just wondering about the scenario as it stands as to how you may potentially come into the team Obviously, we know what happened to Tim, but also you're training in a bubble. You've come back from a T20 World Cup. I mean, this probably isn't how you might have imagined a potential entree to Test cricket. What's your mindset at though? Are you just taking it all in, or sort of are the things a little bit scrambled? I don't know. What's the sort of the focus like?
No, my focus is really clear. I think, I'm either going to be playing an A game or a Test match next week. My focus is really clear on my red ball prep. Obviously, it's not ideal having not played for a while, but that's sort of the way it's been for a couple of years now, just with COVID and that sort of thing. So, I'm really happy with where my game's at the moment.
What about having your state captain in there with you as well, with Mitch? I mean, do you talk to him a bit, because he's obviously played Test cricket as well, or is there someone else you're sort of leaning on within the group that's available there to talk to about what it's like to step up to Test cricket?
Yeah, I think if it does come about that I am picked, I'll probably have more of those conversations. But Mitch is great, and obviously Ash is here as well. We're all pretty close mates, so if needed, I can definitely lean on them for a conversation. But as of so far, we haven't really spoke too much about it.
No worries, thanks.
Thank you.
Mike Pearsall.
Hey, Josh, mate. We saw Alex Carey hit a century yesterday. It was the one-day cup, but he's still, putting his case forward, I suppose. You yourself being quite limited how much cricket you're playing. Has that been frustrating that you've just got to sit on your hands and wait?
Obviously, I'd like to be playing cricket. That's just the reality of the position that I'm in at the moment. The team did an excellent job over in Dubai and the UAE, and obviously wasn't able to force my way into the team. But other than that, I've been training really well, hitting the ball really nicely. It would be nice to play some cricket, but obviously that's not feasible at the minute.
Cool. Thanks, mate.
Thanks.
Tim Morgan.
Oh, hi, Josh. I just wanted to ask, I guess, what have selectors said to you? Like, is there anything you can do over the next couple of days to push your case, or are they more just like, chill, we're just going to take our time to make the decision? Like, I guess, what's their sort of communication been to you?
I can't. I can only train as hard and as well as I can in the quarantine. Obviously, I don't have any games to sort of put my case forward. The communication's been really good. I don't know when they're going to make their decision, so it's probably going to be in the next couple of days. I'll find out, and then I'll get my head around the game coming up and where I'll be.
Last one by the looks here, folks. Ben Horn.
Oh, g'day, Josh. I was wondering who some of your English cricketing heroes were when you were growing up.
Probably when I think back, I think that 2005 Ashes series was huge, and I loved watching Kevin Peterson bat. Just the flair that he played with, and so aggressive, and the way he took the game on. I used to love watching that, and he was brilliant in red and white ball cricket. So probably KP for me.
And just lastly, mate, just during your years coming through the system, have you done much work on your keeping with Tim Payne?
I'm not sure I have. No, I haven't spent too much time with him. To be honest, we've had a couple of. I think he came up to a couple of keeping camps in Brisbane that we've had, maybe 3-4 years ago. But other than that, I haven't done too much work with him.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ben, and thanks to Josh Inglis for coming and joining us today. We'll catch up with all you guys in the coming days.
Thanks, Josh.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Cole.
Cheers.